folks, we are here in Idaho. I can't believe it.
So the monster inhaled. Mighty well. He inhaled so hard that the ropes broke. Kyle was scared.
Tatsnich achsi, oikoloki token, kinawatis pa, tatsnich, ni, teminakidnich, ka, aitznin, watu polmaitza, aitznin teminakidnich. Hello, everybody. Tatalak. Welcome to THC Smoke Signals. I am your guest, Miss Mary Jane Oatman, and I am super honored and excited to bring to you a pretty phenomenal guest. I would just venture to say he's like a brother to me, although we've never met in person. I love this guy. Some of you may know him as Dustin Oliver, especially those of you that remember that, like, cute little kid running around the block. I know him as Mike Diesel. We were super honored and thrilled to have him featured in the Indigenous Men in Hemp and Cannabis issue of THC magazine, which was volume 1, issue 3. So if you have not read that one yet, go to www.indigenouscannabiscoalition.com. You can download all 5, that's right, 5 issues of THC magazine so far. You can go there to check out the issue featuring Mike. It's a gorgeous Chief Joseph Pendleton cover with some amazing cannabis roots laid on top. Every issue that we do for THC magazine, it comes with a specific theme behind it. And so I'm really excited. Last week I shared with, or 2 weeks ago, I shared with everybody the THC magazine cover that just came out on this latest issue. So excited that it's out there all over on the shelves. And so you can download that issue as well. But we have a lot of conversation. We have a lot of things to discuss today. But before we get there, I wanted to let you know about some of the up and coming events that are happening. Memorial Day weekend, Water Canyon Dispensary, which is owned and operated by the Winnemucca Indian Colony, is sponsoring Cannamucca. in conjunction with the big Runamucka Poker Run Biker Festival. They're having their own cannabis festival. It's going to be pretty lit. So if you have nothing going on, make your way to Winnemucca, Nevada, May 28th through the 30th for the amazing event sponsored by the Winnemucca Indian Colony and their Water Canyon Dispensary, which is an amazing sponsor of THC Magazine. They are a great partner in advertising, and we really appreciate their support. It is our tribally owned and operated businesses, our entrepreneurs and supporters like you all that keep us persistent with story and consistent in our publication. So without oh no, one more event. How could I just skip over? So I just bounced right over to May 28th through the 30th without Tribal Green Symposium. So San Diego, Rincon Indian Reservation, Harrah's Resort next week. If you're in that area, registration link at Tribal Cannabis Consulting, but you definitely got to check out their forum and the workshops that they have coming up. So that's going to be May 25th, May 26th in Valley Center at the Harrah's Resort, owned and operated by the Rincon Indian Nation. And so, yay, those are our two updates of events that are coming up around the corner. Stay tuned for more events. I just am really excited to get to our guest, Mike Diesel, to share all of the amazing things that he's got going on, which I know is a lot. So just be prepared for an amazing hour with Mike. Ask us any questions that you have through our Facebook live feed of myself or Mike. And I just wanted to my amazing friend and producer, Sam, thank you so much for keeping us going here at THC Smoke Signals. We are new, but we are ready to hit the scene running. And so smoke up to Sam. Thank you so much for all the work that you do. And now, without further ado, like I said, like a brother, our blood is connected, definitely through the soil. And it's an amazing time to be walking on this earth with phenomenal people like Mike. It feels so weird calling you Mike, but that's who you've become. You have become this amazing, and I've heard the story. And so, I announced him as Dustin Oliver, AKA Mike Diesel. And so let's just hear a little bit about Mike, and hopefully he'll share with all of us, how that transformation came to be. But just a quick heads up, I am also a big fan of all Diesel strains.
Well, greetings. Hello, Soul Sister. Thank you for the opportunity to be here and to chat and to tell our stories. Everybody hear me okay? We're doing okay on that side? Wonderful. I'm here. Cannabis brought me here, I guess, as we like to say. Lifelong Detroiter, been here my entire life. My mother came to Detroit in 1967. About 4 months before the famous riots of Detroit, she came here from the Navajo Nation Reservation, Arizona Four Corners area, where her mother was born on the lands. And she came to Detroit and fell in love with the city, fell in love with the man, and here I am. That's how that goes. Two people fall in love, and then we are created, right? Through Creator. So my life has been a long venture, we'll say, with plant medicines, specifically with the cannabis plant. Finding her at a young age and realizing much through having a relationship with Mother Nature and Mother Earth, which was very instilled in me from my mother from birth. My father passed when I was 4 years old, so our relationship got a lot closer and a lot deeper, and a lot more understanding and healing had to come about from it. And I truly believe that cannabis specifically helped. I was fortunate that at a young age I was extremely mature and was understanding of ways of life and walking in two worlds, as we say. And I realized that I was doing that from, I guess, the time when I was first taken home and my uncle, who is now crossed over, gave me my Navajo name when I was, I believe, 3 was the first time I went home. And my Navajo name is I, which means little magpie that talks too much. I was a talkative soul. Grandfather, or my uncle said that he had never seen, nor had they experienced a child that asked so many questions and wanted to be so involved in the surroundings of what was going on around them at that age. So, yeah, I like to talk and tell stories and hear stories and listen and gain wisdom through those stories. So here we are. Thank
Oh,
you.
wow.
I thank you for the
you so much.
opportunity, Mary Jane.
I appreciate you sharing that story specifically. Although small, very mighty, the magpie played a very large part in the creation story of the Nez Perce people, and comes across in many of our legends, in our before people time legends. And it's so crazy that you say that, because in our way, and there's a specific story actually where Akak piwikna kapuichna, and they're arguing and arguing, and in all of the stories they're loud and they're so I thought that was really really telling, that's threaded throughout our culture and connects us even more. The magpie actually traded the story and the way for the coyote to take down the swallowing monster. So she carried the entire birth of the legend of the Nez Perce people came from the magpie.
Oh, wow. That's pretty astounding. That's so cool. How, yeah, we tie together, right?
Yeah.
And, of course, by chance, I happen to have my first tattoo in life that I got happened to be Chief Joseph.
No way. Oh, wow.
Yep, that's my first tattoo. I got that tattoo in 1994.
This is first, everybody. This is breaking. I have not seen this tattoo. Oh, Mike, that's wow.
Yeah, no, it's pretty astounding. I know. I forget who I told certain aspects to, and I actually forgot until I knew that I hadn't informed you yet. So the way that I kind of did, I have 3 tattoos, and the left side is dedicated to my mother, and then my right side is my father. So I have my Navajo tattoo on my left arm, and then I have my Chief Joseph, and then on my right arm I have my father's police badge, in memory too. So, running the streets of Detroit, I got this tattoo. Let me think. At 25. So I mean, I've been. I'm a lifelonger Detroiter. I'm a lifelonger cannabis Detroiter. So having the 2 different sides and the 2 different worlds has just always been a really interesting place. And us being here on Anishinaabe land, and now coming together and joining such a bond and a partnership with certain Anishinaabe friends and associates and business partners. Our time is now is simply put, for all of us to come together and through Creator teach the ways that we know certain things. That's all I can say. I know things, and there's not a way to I can listen, but when you know things, you just know them, and you learn them from a certain age, and then you just keep going with it. And I always knew that cannabis was a medicine since I was 14, because I watched other people use it as medicine at that time. I watched people at 14 say, I have a headache, and they were able to smoke this, what looked like a cigarette to me. I smoked my first cigarette when I was 13. And that's all. It just looked like something. And I watched people roll their own cigarettes as well back then. So it really wasn't, you grind something up and put in a piece of paper, and it was able to take something that was bothering you away. Then clearly it was medicine. It wasn't rocket science. And believing the systems that are put into place, of course, us as Indigenous Native people, we know which systems are false. And we know a lot of times we have the knowledge. Fortunately, I'm gifted to have my mother around still, so she's able to pass down that knowledge of, when things did change as well. And then able to look at through history, we're able to really see when certain things change in certain aspects of time in life, right? So,
I
yeah.
appreciate that the balance that's represented, on both sides of you in a very symbolic way. Because that's what's really, I think, what we feel and we sense, is a lot of things around us are out of balance. And like you were saying, but something like intrinsically, you feel it to your core, you feel it in your bones, whether it be this like traditional ecological knowledge that is a part of your DNA because you're walking on the landscape of your ancestors. And then we find ourselves in this really emergent time where everybody talks about this big war on drugs, and how it's been so devastating to Black, Brown, Indigenous communities. But the conversation always starts with like Nixon's war on drugs, and yet we realize that many of our communities, peace pipe carrying societies, had such a long-standing sacred relationship with this plant, and from the get-go always realized that with that gift came a responsibility. And so that's why it's so phenomenal to be here at this time now, to be able to be an Indigenous woman with a voice, to have our spiritual counterpart balance of the men also, such as yourself and many other of our Indigenous brothers that are out there that are talking about their road to recovery and healing some of the dysfunctional colonial depredations that our communities still suffer from. But at the same time, we realize that our voice now is honoring that sacred path of our ancestors and allowing us to be able to connect our relationship to this plant in a different way than the traditional social equity conversations have taken place. And so hats off to you for the work that you have done in this space, because I know that it's you're not a new kid on the block.
Yeah, no, not at all. I've been through the system, I've been through the system since the beginning. It's hard to actually look back and see levels of history that we've lived through already. And that's what we're living every day. We're living history. And, you talk about Nixon and things like that. And Henry Anslinger is really where we take it back to with his war on, he was the original one, and talking about jazz music and relating the devil's lettuce with jazz music and darkies wanting to then rape white women. And those are not direct quotes, but very much close to his exact comments, the ways that he felt about, I guess they wanted segregation, of course, to stay in place. So plant medicines open us up to seeing the love and being able to pass the love. And when you're trying to, I guess, control that system in that way, then love is the last thing you want to be around. So, my first time, let me think, the first run-in that I had with cannabis, and trying to be sure, because I've been in I've been through the ringer here in Detroit with the system, with the police. It's always been interesting because I've always in Detroit. Oh, I could talk my way out of it in half a second. My mom was a 911 operator when I was going to high school in the city of Detroit. So if I got pulled, it was, I took full advantage of that without. So in Detroit, I don't think I've actually ever, ever actually been arrested, to be honest. But I got raided, I remember, for the first time. So when I got out of high school, 2 months out of high school, I think it was October, or right after the end of summer, I moved out. I had moved out to a city here called Livonia, Michigan. And if you actually Google and look up this city, in I believe it was 2001, it was rated the whitest city in America, over 100,000 in population. It was, I believe, 96.5% white. In 1994, I decided to move out there with my friends. A friend of mine had his parents got divorced. In the house, dad got the house, and dad decided to rent it out to his son and group of friends. So I've been selling weed already all through high school. So I think it was the 59th day that we were there, honestly. You know, I was 18. I wasn't very hip to much inside of that world yet, as far as getting caught in the system, because I had already just, been doing what I was doing since I was 13. And I sold some cannabis to the 16-year-old neighbor who lived directly next door. And I can remember it. I can remember him calling me and saying, "Can I come by and bring a friend?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." And, looking back at it, now I know who that friend was, of course, because the next day. So, but I was fortunate in that time where I actually had a family friend who was a former Detroit police officer turned criminal defense attorney. So he taught me and told me how the system worked, essentially, as far as, the point system and staying out of actually going behind and doing anything more than, knowing what you're willing to put a risk for. And once I realized that it took away pain, because at that same age, I also, my first girlfriend, we found out had cancer when we were 18. And, life changed then. And yeah, once I was able to find out that she was a pain reliever too, I kind of already knew in my head. I was like, well, it takes away pain, headaches, from youngin', and then just seeing it, observing it on myself. I played sports, and I can remember smoking a joint for the first time, and I was like, wow, that took away that knee pain back then at the time. And then starting to work with my friend, and yeah, realizing what a miraculous plant creator has left for us to work with.
Yeah, it's been the same
Just
with me,
astounding.
despite having to visit my grandma in federal prison for growing it. The vibrancy of the subculture within my family never wavered because of the acceptance that it was medicine, and it had the healing powers. And it was even after that my dad was still battling with alcoholism, and that was one of the biggest tools to his recovery in staying away from the bottle, because when you work in the labor industry in some of these small town communities in Idaho, as soon as that paycheck comes in, the first thing that you do is you go running off to the bars for the weekend. And I remember him. I remember him specifically, using it during his therapy and recovery from moving away from alcohol. Many of our Native men, I've seen that are in that stage of recovery, utilize the plant medicine. And so those are the types of stories that I love being able to feature what's happening in commerce and economy for tribes, the importance of our tribes to be out there working, and entrepreneurs as well, on branding and things like that. It's really the stories of people that are healing, and the compassion that happens within cannabis cultures and communities that I'm super excited about, because our issue that just came out, we feature an interview with one of the tribal council members from the Puyallup Nation, David Bean. And, he talks about how until he was personally impacted, that he was, not really compelled to act. And it was, seeing his own wife, in cancer therapy and treatment. But he grew up as a cops kid, so you can relate. There's a lot of negative stigma that's created because of how it was so criminalized in our criminal justice system. And so to be able to feature actual law enforcement testimonial in the future is something that I look forward to. I know veterans that are law enforcement, former law enforcement, that are very much pro cannabis, pro CBD, and want to share their stories. And so that's where we're at, is as many of these types of stories of healing, and people like you that are out there providing the the quality access, working on making sure that our communities that were impacted by the war on drugs actually continue to have access, and without having to drive, across town and paying god awful prices at these boutiques, that we actually have apothecaries and have co-ops available to our people.
Yeah, yeah, it's the 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 changes here, for as far as the way that the plan is going to interact with the business world, of course, and it's upon us, and it's going to be, an interesting road. I'm excited for Native nations. I like to inform people, and because most don't know that if all tribes were to put our land together, of course, in land mass size, then we would have more farmland than the United States of America, farmland in general. So those things are here to change, and I can see how Indigenous Native people of Turtle Island in general will be able to work together in a way going forward. Um, yeah, it's just going to be. She's a miraculous plant. Hi, I have one of my dogs here next to me now and wanting to be involved.
Well, that's what I'm really excited on the second half of the show to be able to talk to you about is, I know you're a very passionate person, and definitely a compassionate person. And so seeing the work that you have done in your dog rescue, how you got started on that path, all of those kind of things, we're going to save for the second half, so we're going to have a break here shortly. But there was one specific thing, so you mentioned earlier, kind of that earlier introduction or whatnot. Do you remember your first time smoking? Do you remember that first
100%. 100%. I remember the first, I remember the second, I remember my first cigarette. So my first time smoking cannabis was is extremely interesting. I was 11, and my best friend used to live next door right now. So I bought the house across the street from, my mother lives across the street, and I grew up in that house over there.
Oh,
My
wow.
best friend lived here, and my friend Eric used to live in the house that I live in now. So David, God rest his soul, lived next door, and he was a year older than me. So when I was born, he was 1. He became my best friend. We went to the same school and everything, right? So at 11, he comes and gets me, and we ride our bikes over to our friend Robbie's house, who lives 3 streets over. And Robbie's dad grew weed. And so this is, let me think if I can, this is 1988, I think. And his dad grew weed. But we, of course, didn't know anything about weed. And Robbie was a year older than David. So we go into his garage where we always hung out. And he comes outside. He's like, okay, I'm going to go inside and get it. And he comes back out. And now looking back at it, of course, life, all these years later, he comes back out with fan leaves from the plant. And we proceed to cut it up with scissors and try to smoke it. And it was terrible. It wouldn't stay lit. And I ended up getting a headache from smoking fan leaves off of a cannabis plant. Whether or not it was actually flowering, it could have been a male cannabis plant. We smoked fan leaves though at 11. So that was actually my first time. So it was definitely not enjoyable. Then about, I think it was like a week later, he kind of comes over again, and we smoke a cigarette for the first time. And same thing. It was a headache, and I didn't like it. And I was like, so fast forward 2 years to I was 13, and he comes and gets me again, kind of thing, and we're hanging out, and we go to a friend's house, and we actually go up onto a rooftop of a 1-story ranch house, which is on that same street over there, ride our BMX bikes over there, and we actually smoke from his father again, but this time it actually was cannabis, and it was life-changing and awesome and cool until everybody got ready to leave and go on their bikes to go to the bike trails. So everybody's like, okay, let's go. And first one goes down the ladder. and I'm looking at him, and in my head, I'm like, how do you go down the ladder backwards? I couldn't remember at all. Like legitimately, I was like, I couldn't compute how you would even turn around on a roof. And yeah, so everybody left me. I stayed there for 2 hours. And I didn't make it to the bike trail that day. And I ended up just going to the edge of the corner of the roof and hanging down, getting my hands on the edge and just hanging myself down. So I just had to lower myself instead of jumping all the way. And then I just came home and I remember eating. I remember enjoying, cannabis and food for the first time.
Oh, wow.
And
Thank
mom
you.
was at work. Yeah. So yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that story with us. I love hearing about people's first time, their first experiences, and just, I don't know, the nostalgia of your story brings back, the experiences of mine as well. But we're going to take a quick break, allow you to go and refill your coffee cup, and we'll pick up on the second part, and we're going to talk about the Detroit Dog Rescue, Mike's continued work as a farmer, and a couple of other things that announcements and events towards the end. But thank you all for tuning in. Don't forget to post any questions that you have in our Facebook Live. I see you all out there. Thank you so much, Jessica, Marilyn, everybody that's tuning in to join us. You are very, very much appreciated. And like I said, oh yeah, and Katie, she said, show it off. She really liked the little flash of the tattoo, and it looks like we got a few other people that were agreeing. So thank you so much, everybody there on the Facebook Live. Don't forget to get your questions in. Yeah, we'll talk about Mike as a cannabis chef as well. We got lots to talk about, but we're going to take a break. Thank you.
Love it.
All right.
Cool. So you probably told your story in the
Folks, we are here in Idaho. I can't are here in Idaho. I can't believe it.
I've known times. So the monster inhaled. Mighty wet. He inhaled so hard that the ropes broke. Kyle was scared.
Tatsnich achsi, oikoloki token, kinawatis pa. Tatsnich. Dominicanic ka Eitznin, watu pomaitza, Eitznin Dominicanic.
Welcome back. Thank you for joining us with THC Smoke Signals podcast. This is our fourth live issue or show where we've been able to bring you stories from across Turtle Island. And it's just such an honor to be able to feature our guest today, Mr. Mike Diesel. Before we get back to that conversation, I wanted to share with everybody just really briefly. So I talked to you guys all about the awesome opportunity that we had with Honeysuckle Magazine, another press mention that just came out in the Bluntness in their culture section, diversity in cannabis, Lil Wayne, Honeysuckle Rock, Times Square with a powerful message. So thebluntness.com, if you get a chance, which I know you're going to because you're going to be intrigued by this quick little preview. They did a great write-up, and as you see there, it features THC Magazine, the Indigenous Cannabis Coalition, and our collaboration and partnership with Legacy 420 to bring a historic international Indigenous campaign to New York City, Times Square's, NASDAQ billboard. I'm still just kind of like on cloud nine about that opportunity because that is exactly what we're here for, is to help elevate Indigenous cannabis communities, mainstream our communities and families that are working in these spaces, and to rematriate our people's way of life in plant medicines. And so thank you all for joining us. Mike, you're just awesome. I can't even okay, so what I want to start with, because we'll get to the cannabis chef stuff a little bit later. I'm a foodie. I love me some food, but
Oh, yeah.
I don't do the infused stuff. I ate a cookie once and I had to crawl down the stairs and like lay in a cold shower for like 20 minutes. So I try to stay away from the edibles. Everybody just kind of knows what works for them. I don't do any drinks. I got like 3 of them for Christmas, and they're all still bottled and chilling and just kind of just looking at me for a fun night. But I lean more towards the flower. I really love my tropicals and things like that.
Oh, yes.
But with that being said, I think I would love to venture out to Detroit just to have me a good Mike Diesel home cooked meal that was highly infused. So one of the other areas that I've been really intrigued about within the development of the cannabis industry is the number of people that are realizing the benefits of CBD for pet care. Is that something that you use at the Detroit Dog Rescue? Do you have any of your wonderful four-legged creatures on any regimen?
Um, so just for clarification, because we get it often, it's the name of the rescue is actually, I think it's up there above me. It's Detroit
Yeah,
Youth,
Detroit Youth, yes.
because there is another one with that name, so we just don't want the confusion. But we are
That's the most important part, the youth part. I mean, really, how you work at that. Okay, go for it.
that's a whole you'll be in, yeah, that's a whole story, because when I started that was going to be 10 cities in 10 years, so it's coming, being established through this way. But cannabis medicine right now, one of my dogs, I'll say my eldest, Penny Snuggle Pants, who is 14 years old, she would be the one that she doesn't get it every day, but she does get a CBD specific tincture if she's having a slow day, which she's been having more and more, as she's getting older, of course. I have done quite a bit of, I'll call it, research with CBD medicine and specific injuries to certain dogs while I was heavily into the dog rescue world. There was quite a few years where it was, sleeping in the truck even with a dog because I had too many inside and I just rescued one. It was a wild ride for a couple of years, but I specifically did test some CBD medicine for dogs and such. And yeah, we're using one for Penny now to help make it a little bit easier. She's got extreme arthritis in her back, rear hips, and leg areas, and helps loosen up. It works as a good anti-inflammatory and loosens her up.
So you mentioned Penny Snuggle Pants. I think that Penny's probably got quite a bit of a fan club. Was Penny one of your rescues?
No, Penny's actually, so there's 6 dogs here, and Penny is mine, and actually other ones are all actually the rescues. Penny, I actually got, I actually know Penny's grandfather, actually, and he was the first pit bull that I ever met. My best friend, Chris, had the dog going, 1994. He had a dog named Chili, who was a Brendel, and then Chili had a dog named Gage, and then Chris's parents got Gage, and then Gage had puppies, and that's where Penny came from.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so she was mine. She was mine, and I wanted her to be family, and yeah. And the other ones are all the rescues. I still try to say that, but they've been here for so many years now that I have a fence jumper and a fence under privacy fence digger now that they've turned into, and yeah, I think they're all, I think it's verbiage at this point on whose they are. They'll be here for.
One of my favorite rescues was Boo, who got a lot of media attention. That was a pretty awesome rescue. Tell us a little bit about Boo.
Oh wow, that rescue was how did I get the call? I think it was a inbox of a picture originally, or it might have just been, I can't remember how that started. I just went, and then bringing that up.
Yeah.
I went in. Yeah, I went. I think somebody sent me a message and said there was a dog, if I remember right. So I went to the area and saw him out there, and it took a while. It took a while to build up enough trust, and ended up there the first day for 12 hours actually, and then came back the next day.
Boo to come with you.
Yeah, and then came back the next day, and ended up talking him into it with enough persuasiveness and treats. And if I remember right, it was like breakfast sandwiches from one of the popular places that we won't plug. But the real popular places has like sausage muffins or something like
Remember
that,
that little rubbery egg?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That was that one.
Yeah, he got he got that and hash browns if I remember, and then like normal dog treats and such. And yeah, um, he was sick. He had heartworm disease, and got him healthy. He went through the normal protocol that we have fostered, and then Foster ended up falling in love with him and ended up adopting him, and he's living a life of luxury type thing. But yeah, it was a huge media thing that went like ultra viral because of the picture. Was that one that I've seen a lot of dogs in similar situations, worse situations, much worse. But when yeah, it was pretty bad though. Throwing your stuff out, everything, and literally, leaving a family member, as I consider them, and the way that I was raised for them to be, and your animals, and yeah, you're throwing your family member out. So it was heartbreaking, clearly, and that's why it caught on because it made
Well, that's what I was talking about earlier, with compassion, to be able to keep giving and keep giving. That's where I always find myself with my medicine, is I realize that that's my time to kind of give back to myself. That's when I reset, that's when I get a certain amount of prayer and reflection to be able to continue to keep putting it out and giving and doing, for others. And speaking of, putting out and doing, I know that you have a lot going on. Like, I follow you on the Facebook and I see you on the Instagram, and you went on a little bit of a whirlwind tour. And so as you were talking about, about your 10 city tour. And then I think about this whole dynamic with the Detroit Youth and Dog Rescue. It makes me think of what it's like on some of our reservations, with the lack of. So I think that, don't ever sell yourself short, that you're probably inspiring some young people out there to take action, to lead and be and do more. And it has, it doesn't always have to be it can come in many different forms. And I see that with the work that you're doing, with Four Legged. And that's, I think, how most people think of animals as a part of their family, and, part of I can't imagine having to leave, a family member behind like that. Although I did do it one time. I left my son at a national park, and we went back to the campground, and we were sitting in our big old circle after a ceremony. Like, where do you go? Look around, and we're just like, where's Wainbow? And I realized that he was like, 8 miles back at the park. It's like 3 years old. The park ranger has him back there with the coloring book. That was one of those times that I felt like a bad cannabis mommy, where I'd had such an outpour of everything that day. We were over at our big whole ceremony, and we were getting ready to go back, and be in another ceremony with our, more tighter knit family and our nuclear family. And yeah, that was pretty embarrassing. I think that was one of those times when I actually had said, you know what, and I was a younger mom at the time, where I realized that there's there's balance in everything. And so I do know that there's going to be, some big changes that are happening as we work towards, federal legalization. And that's one of the areas that I anticipate the negative stigma ending, is for our moms, especially our moms that find healing with cannabis through their pregnancies. There's a lot of quantitative and qualitative research out there, I think, that connects to pregnancy and cannabis use in utero. And so that's one of the areas that I see still attacks on our indigenous communities because of the tie and connection with the federal healthcare system, is that there's still a lot of chastising of our moms that choose to utilize cannabis before pregnancy or during pregnancy, and some of the social service situations that they find themselves in. So we have a lot of work to do, is what I'm trying to say with that. Is, we feel like we've reached some major milestones to be able to have a 420 billboard in New York City, or to be able to, take your, your government ID and walk into a dispensary and lay it down and walk out with some, some quality cannabis. That's one thing, but for our people to be able to feel liberated and free enough to be able to grow their own, that's what I'm excited about. Is our knowing who your farmer is. If you choose not to grow yourself, but to be able to almost in a way get back to that black market feel that got us to where we're at now.
Lots of where we're at, things, children, is education, of course, because when you know through science, that we have endocannabinoid system, every mammal does, not just humans, and through breast milk, I mean, is the first stage of the transmission, of the child getting that first endocannabinoid system that helps regulate the immune system. I mean, that's the science side of it, and the part that it's education to people. And when they start to understand that we have those cannabinoids inside of us and it's actually part of us, you can start to change. And of course, everybody, when they get their first salve, like my mother, for instance, gets their first salve treatment, it ends up changing minds. And that's where we're at, is the time of changing minds, and the generation, certain generations realizing that they were lied to in a large way. And then there's us that were through the changing ones, and then the youth are coming up, and they're just like, wow, what a strange place to be in, of course. So yeah, it's an amazing time to be alive with her and watching the progress go through with her, and being able to work with four-legged animals like we talked about, and all the different aspects, and not just dogs, four-leggeds, yeah.
Yeah, we had Alex Whiteplume share a story about, his utilizing feed for buffalo. And so there's definitely a lot on the horizon in terms of opportunity with the fiber and, the food side of it, and the food sovereignty protection of tribes. Not to mention, I know that it was just like a big thing in, even in national media when Lowell Cafe was open down there in California. And I know that the experiences that they're having when they have high profile events where they have tasting menus that are cannabis infused, make me realize that you guys out there in Detroit are going to have some amazing and really exquisite cannabis food experiences. And so how did you get into cooking with cannabis?
Ooh, first time I cooked with cannabis. Let's think about that. No, 2004, November 2004, me and my best friend went to Amsterdam to go to the High Times Cannabis Cup. And we did the whole judges pass. We did the whole big thing that we saw was like the Mecca side of it back then, of course, right? So we did it, and took there was a hash course that Mila offered at the Pollinator, was her place back then. And bubble bags were introduced, and came back here with knowledge and information, and new friends that were able to get that science dialed in, and then they passed off the medicine to me to cook with. And that's interesting because we have some interesting stories about people not being able to handle their edibles, of course. But yeah, I made hash ice cream in 2005 for here in Michigan. We have what's called the Hash Bash that happens every year in April. because of John Sinclair. And back then, Adam Brooke was still the founder and still the person in charge of it and such. And they were all friends of family and such. And I made a big batch of hash ice cream, vanilla hash ice cream, with chocolate chips to be specific. And then I made hash chocolate chip cookies as well. And
Ooh,
made
that sounds good.
sandwiches. And RIP to Chef Ra, who used to be the High Times. He used to write the articles for any of the edibles back then. And he tried my cookies, and he was one of the ones that didn't handle it so well, actually. But yeah, they were insanely strong. So circa 2009, I started to do it again because they were really, really, really strong. And medical becomes more passes here and everything. So I learned my process and dialed in as a chef my ratios and such. And I ended up figuring out that my cookies that I made the first time were about 15 times stronger than the recipe I would make like right now today on the low side.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That's how I started. That's how I started cooking with them, and now now it's fun. You can cook with anything and create everything. My degree is actually hotel restaurant management, and we had to take all the same courses as the culinary people, except instead of taking the baking courses at the end, we had to take the business courses. So I always worked in restaurants anyways, and it was always restaurants and cannabis, and they blend so well together. And I'm a huge foodie as well, so I love to cook. And now I'm taking as far as king crab medicated king crab legs is probably probably the favorite right now, for sure.
Oh, that sounds delicious.
Oh, yes, wild good. Yeah. Oh, I don't know if you can hear that one whining in the background. That's Penny Snugglepants.
Can.
Yeah.
She wants to go for a walk, it sounds like. So Mike, we're getting ready to wind things down towards the end of the hour, but there's some people tuned in that are definitely fans of your work. And so what's some of the things that you have on your horizon? How can we be on the lookout for things that you have going on? Do you have any upcoming other podcast shows that we should tune into? I'm hoping that things all fall so that I actually get to see you out in California coming up around the corner.
That would be amazing. Yes, that would be great. No podcast, nothing direct on the horizon. Finalizing final details right now for getting some things in order right now. There is a new probably start sharing that, I guess. Yeah, next week. There's a new article coming out in the magazine that'll be out for the summer edition of Skunk Magazine. That'll be coming out. So there's your announcement for that. That's very awesome and amazing. Honored. Thanks to Julie and her crew. So that'll be coming out.
Can you see those goosebumps? Can you see those goosebumps, Mike? I will also be in the same magazine. So I'm just like, holy cow. So the reason I asked specifically podcasts for all of you that are, super into podcasts is go back a little bit into the archives of late February, where you can find Mr. Mike Diesel on the Adam Dunn Show. That was a lot of fun up until I had my technical difficulties, which I had pretty much throughout the whole entire podcast. But I mean, Mike's out there. Adam Dunn, that was pretty freaking hot. That was fire.
yeah, those guys are way cool. I got to see their grow in Oklahoma when I made that little stop through, and they're all amazing. I love the whole crew.
Yeah. Okay, so we have a lot of friends that are, paths are colliding and cross. I think that we're going to have to start planning an amazing event for, 2022 or towards the end of this year to get us all in one place. Like, then I can hear how you and Sober Junkie know each other, some of our other sisters and brothers to get us all united in one big space would be pretty.
Could drop a little, like two small little things there for you, that there is something coming with the names that you just said, and we are all collectively putting something together to come west. And my Anishinaabe people are here doing a thing called Vibes with the Tribes, which is Detroit's first Indigenous festival, which is going to be coming up this summer. And that's happening, and that is with a Detroit Anishinaabe rapper, Selfie, and with Hadassah Green Sky.
Cool.
And that's gonna be, that's gonna be an amazing thing going on. And there's definitely a collaboration with the Cannabis Intelligence Alliance, with me coming on board with them, and they with a new title for the industry, of CNO for Chief Native Officer, to start working with tribal nations, we'll say, and we'll just keep it very loose, to help.
That
and
sounds
knowledge,
perfect.
with knowledge and information.
Yeah, and that's exactly what needs to happen is people to build the bridges, because there's so many opportunities to do business with tribal communities where tribal communities will benefit, where there's resources and opportunity. And so one last quick pitch, and then we're gonna shut our show down for the day. And tune in again for one of our future issues. We do every other Friday, and 3 to 4 is our time zone or time frame. But I always love to do pitches for the tribal communities and tribal businesses that support ours. This one goes a little ways back to my first visit to MJ BizCon. I'm walking through the airport and I see this dope ass logo from like clear across the airport, and I go running over there. And I was like, oh man, can I have a picture? Can I have a picture of your hoodie? A guy had a hoodie on that just blew me away. And, I never, ever in my wildest dreams would have imagined that same tribally owned and operated cannabis dispensary would be buying full page ads in THC magazine. So if you are in the area of the Suquamish Indian Nation, stop by Agate Dreams, where they have some of the most phenomenal fire in the market in the I-502 rec. So grown native by native. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Mike, so much.
Yeah.
At Mike Diesel, is it 313?
Yeah, for Instagram. Yep.
Follow Mike on Instagram. Check him out. Thank you so much, Sam, for just being our engineer on the back end to keep things running smooth, to show the beautiful video of my homelands, to Hemp Traders for your support in advertising, and to Notes from the Underground, and watch us tonight, Notes from the Underground, 7 o'clock, and just love all your work. Thank you so much, Mike.
Thank you so much.
Good old-fashioned Indian loving. No, I can't be your husband. Just found out that you're my cousin.
Folks, we are here in Idaho. I can't believe it.
inhaled so hard that the ropes broke.
Folks, we are here in Idaho. I can't believe it.
Lives known knives. So the monster inhaled. Right he went. He inhaled so hard that the ropes broke. Kyle was scared.
Tatsnich Axi, Oikaloki Token, Kinawatispa, Tatsnik, Timinakitnik, Ka, Eitznin, Waku Komaitza, Eitznin,